Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome back to the Bros and the Berg Podcast. My name is Ryan Doyle. I'm joined by my most handsome co-host, Robbie Bergstone, also known as Big Daddy Bergs.
Facts.
And
Dollar sign.
we are unfortunately joined by our producer. He told us that Robbie and I cannot do this podcast alone. That we're actual liabilities. Well, I mean, it's fair. But anyways, we thank you for joining us, whether you be watching us on YouTube, listening to us on Spotify, or wherever you potentially get your podcast. Today's a little bit of a special episode. We're going to be really hyper-focused in on the NFL. We're going to start with our predictions potentially for the season. We're going to talk about, which teams we think are going to overachieve, underachieve, and everything in the middle. And then we're going to go and dive into fantasy because, that's what we really all love about the NFL is fantasy football, gambling, and all the degeneracy that goes into Monday night. Your team needs 10 points. That's what you live for when it comes to NFL season.
Do we love fantasy football? Like, really? Because it brings me a lot of sadness personally.
A lot of pain.
And maybe it's just because I'm bad at it, which I am. I think actually all three of us are actually pretty
That's
horrid.
correct. I'm pretty fantasy.
Bad. But, I try to debate, when I win, does it bring me more happiness than it does when I lose? And it's really close. Mm-hmm. But does it feel good to win?
See, for me, fantasy brings me away from the constant disappointment that my home team is.
Yeah. That's a good call. But if I have a day where the Panthers lose and my fantasy team loses, I don't want to speak to anyone the rest of the
day.
That
happens a lot.
That's just a normal day.
I mean, if you think about it, anytime my fantasy team loses, the Panthers probably also lost. Just odds wise, there's a good chance. So
yeah, big correlation, unfortunately.
Please like and subscribe. We're hitting that 100 subscriber mark by the end of August. That is our goal. That's what's going to happen. And we have a big announcement for you guys at the end of the episode as to what that will mean. So as Ryan said, we're going to start up with the NFL and just the actual football, real football, if you will. We're going to go conference by conference. Going to list the teams off by conference, and we're just going to discuss it. We're going to predict how we think the conference is going to shape out, and we're going to do this for the entire league. So, gentlemen, we're going to start with the AFC East. Some very interesting teams, obviously, in this division. It goes the Buffalo Bills, the Miami Dolphins, the New England Patriots, and the New York Jets.
Connor, would you like the live odds for each of those teams to win the division as we go through?
Sure.
So this is via DraftKings. We got the Bills at plus 120, the Jets at plus 270, the Dolphins at plus 300, and the Patriots at plus 800. So that's your handicap going into the season of what people think these teams are going to do. And I think that's a pretty standard list of how they think these teams are going to finish. But
my first thought about hearing that is the Bills are, I think, perfectly favored. I think the Patriots are obviously pretty distant fourth at this time. It's just a really strong division. I think the Jets are a bit overvalued, and I think the Dolphins are a little bit undervalued.
In my mind, I would probably swap those two. And you got to think about where the Jets would be if it wasn't for getting Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
If they don't have Aaron Rodgers, they're probably sitting around where the Patriots odds are. I don't think they're out of the division necessarily, but you're definitely not thinking they're the second favorite to win.
And I just think talent-wise, right? The Jets have the talent to potentially win this division if everything comes together. Breece Hall comes back, Aaron Rodgers plays like the MVP that he was. But also, there are so many question marks. I mean, this team is probably one of the most overhauled teams in the past year. They potentially would not gel together and really struggle potentially at the beginning to get their footing. I think it'll be really interesting to watch.
I think this is the one division this year that you could theoretically see every team hovering around 500. And there's a chance that you could see them all end around 8-9, 9-8, at worst.
Right.
I know. I think it's really competitive. And the Patriots definitely have the worst talent in the division. I don't think that's really much of a debate at this point, but they still happen to have the best coach in the NFL roaming the sidelines. So I think it's a little bit hard to count them out completely.
Yeah. Belichick will find a way to yoink games when he shouldn't be yoinking games.
Robbie, obviously, previously, and you just kind of said it there, but previously you mentioned that you thought the Buffalo Bills wouldn't be as strong this season. Where do you see their final win total at?
I think they still win double-digit games. I think there's too many good players on that team to not win double-digit games. I could see it being, I think maybe 11 or 12. I think I'm guessing their over-under is at 11.5. I'm guessing they'll be right around that number. I think that's a pretty good line. I don't know if that's the line, but I think that it is. I think we discussed that last time. So I think they're going to be sitting right around that line.
Very interesting. I'm going to agree with you, gentlemen. I think that it will. I do see the Dolphins being pretty decent this year. I think Tua just continues to get better. But the one thing about the Jets, I think a lot of people are undervaluing, obviously, because they had so many changes on the offensive side of the ball, is that Jets defense is really good. And a lot of people, I think, are kind of young between Sauce but I think a lot of people are really undervaluing that aspect. Whereas like that defensive group has mostly stayed together. Where while the offense has shifted and gained a lot of talent, the defensive group has stayed together. But I also understand the point in this front office staff and this coaching staff has never really had this amount of talent. So it's like, do they have the tools necessary to facilitate that talent to like a Super Bowl per se?
Well, you say that, but Saleh came from the Niners when the Niners were making the Super Bowl and making NFC Championship games. Like he's at least seen that before.
Yeah.
For how bad the Jets have been over the last few years, they've drafted really, really well defensively. You drafted Sauce, you drafted Quinnen Williams, you drafted Jamal Adams. Obviously he's no longer with the team, but I mean, those are 3 really good hits in the first round in terms of defensive talent. So it seems like someone in that front office has an eye for it.
I really do think the Jets are the biggest question mark in terms of potential win to loss swing. I really am.
Which Aaron Rodgers do you get? Do you get Aaron Rodgers from last year, who was a middle of the road quarterback, or do you get Aaron Rodgers from 2 years ago that won an MVP?
Yep. It's crazy.
So let's go person by person. Say what we think the division is going to end up is. I think it's going to go. I think it's going to go Bills.
I think we just pick a winner.
Just pick a winner. Yeah, Bills. I think pretty easy there.
I think it's the Bills, but I think we're all on the same page. If you want to take a value pick with the odds, you take the Dolphins.
I agree.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Real quick before we move on to the next division, I saw a news article today that was talking about the 49ers and how obviously they were like quarterback starved, with all the injuries that they had. You know who was on the call list to be added to the roster as an emergency if the Niners made the Super Bowl? Philip Rivers was coming out of retirement.
Does he get to bring all 10 of his children?
Yeah, that man
10 kids.
He's about to have his 10th one, so he can now field an entire offense with just himself and his children.
He's on the Nick Cannon grind.
It's crazy, dude.
Yeah,
that's nuts. Yeah. As Ryan said, we are going to move on into the next division in the AFC here. We're going to the AFC North, gentlemen. To remind you of the teams, it is the Cleveland Browns, the Baltimore Ravens, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. What are our initial thoughts on that group?
Just quick odds for you. You got the Bengals at plus 150, the Ravens at plus 235, the Browns at plus 380, and the Steelers at plus 450. Again, all pretty close together odds-wise. Definitely not counting anyone out of that division either.
I think this division personally is the strongest in terms of like top to bottom close talent. Like an injury can swing this division season, I think.
Yeah.
Obviously you have the Bengals that are trying to get back to the AFC Championship game and trying to make some Super Bowls happen. Browns, Deshaun Watson looked really rough. Is he going to finally be able to knock that rust off? They have some talent in the backfield and their offensive line is super strong. Steelers got some young quarterback, running backs.
Can the offense put it together? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Can the young offense put all their pieces together? Is what it's going to come down to for the Steelers.
And the Ravens, they got their quarterback under contract. That shit's behind them. Like,
did they finally give Lamar enough help? I think is the biggest question in this division. Do these wide receivers move the needle enough that the Ravens offense can actually start clicking?
No.
I agree.
And
unless OBJ
entered
Antonio Brown's cryo chamber and it set him back 5 years, back when he was healthy and good. I don't see it. I don't think OBJ is getting you anywhere at this moment in time.
I personally think over the last 10 to 15 years that this is the most fun division in football. And that's saying something because the Bengals and Browns have kind of sucked. But
hey, the Ravens disrespecting the Andy Dalton and AJ Green, Bengals like that.
I am. I look like AJ Green. I mean, Andy Dalton.
Andy. Huh? I don't think you look like AJ Green.
I never put that together, but yeah, damn, you do look like AJ Green. That's fucking crazy.
Anyways.
It was like Adam Jones last week after he got his name wrong the first time.
Second time.
Really, Ryan's really bad with A names. If we just throw a bunch of A names around, he's gonna get really confused.
Yeah. Just take my mic away. Who gave me a platform?
That's what all the TikTok comments say too. So.
It's valid.
In terms of this division, I actually this might be a bit of a hot take, but I think obviously we're very much all on the side of we don't think that the Ravens have given Lamar enough help outside of Mark Andrews, but he's been there forever. I actually think that this division will end up with the Bengals out top. I think the Browns are going to get second place. I think the Browns get into that second place, as Ryan said. Obviously, Deshaun needs to knock the rust off, and I think he will. I think he's gotten comfortable in this offseason. This is by far the best quarterback they've had. Even like his rusty self is the best quarterback they've had in 6 years, I'd probably argue, at least. So I really think that the Browns are probably going to end up being second. I do think the Steelers are going to be at the bottom, but there's a lot of talent on that Steelers team between Pickens and Najee and Pickett. So it'll be. I agreed. I think this will be a fun division. I think this will be a really interesting division.
And the Steelers have never finished under 500 with Mike Tomlin as head coach.
That's crazy.
Yeah, the Steelers do have, in terms of like the worst odds in every division. The Steelers have the best odds of all the teams. In the worst. Actually, nope. Take that back. There's one later. Can't read, but they're right there with them. It's really close together.
Yeah.
So. I probably agree with that order. I think the Browns have a better shot at winning this division than most people are giving them. I don't think it's completely unreasonable that they could win this division, but I think beating the Bengals is a pretty tough ask.
Yeah. So I'm assuming we're all saying that the Bengals are going to probably rule this division by the end of the year.
Yep.
Ryan has to. He's actually contractually obligated to say that now.
This is true.
Yeah.
I think the Bengals. It's probably just maybe 2 games. I mean, I think it's still going to be close. I think you're coming down to week 16, 17. Like a team could still have a shot in second place.
There could be an Ohio showdown at the very end of the season. That'd be interesting. We are going to move on to the next division in the AFC with the AFC South. Between the Houston Texans, the Indianapolis Colts, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Tennessee Titans. I hate this division.
Yeah, we have our first minus sign for winning the division. We got the Jags at minus 155, the Titans at plus 350, Colts at plus 600, and the Texans at plus 800. This division is bad.
They're in the NFL.
It's bad.
They're
it's
booty
really
cheeks.
And it's somewhat surprising to me that the Titans are still as high as they are. Again, as one of those things, 2 years ago, obviously you had the best record in the AFC in the regular season, won the bye, got the number 1 seed.
I don't know how that happened still. It just
they're like no quarterback on that roster gives me any faith in them winning more than like 6 games.
No.
I don't know how Tannehill did it that one year. I mean, I think Derrick Henry just went off.
Derrick Henry, yeah.
So
Well, the defense was really good. Their defense was good that year. I remember that.
Right. But then you got Malik Willis. You got
Will Levis,
quarterback from Kentucky, Will Levis.
Apparently, he's listed behind Malik Willis and that is not a good sign because Malik Willis was bad last year.
You know, it's one of those things that you always see a quarterback fall, and you're like, how did that quarterback fall so far? He's supposed to be drafted really highly, and like almost every time that happens, they end up being bad. And it's like, okay, someone saw something, and then all the other NFL teams saw it too, and like, I just have no faith in them. And Derrick Henry's great, and he's probably going to be really, really good this year. But I don't think that you can win enough games in today's NFL just pounding the rock with Derrick Henry. And I don't think the defense is where it was 2 years ago.
At his age and some of the injuries he's had, he still might be the best player in this division.
Well, you think Trevor Lawrence is going to be the GOAT.
It's either him or Trevor Lawrence.
yeah, exactly.
Also, we're kind of discussing Jonathan Taylor too.
I was about to
forgetting about how good he was coming off of. I mean, he was injured last year, but I would still take Derrick Henry over Jonathan Taylor, despite the age difference.
Yep.
In terms of this upcoming year, let's put it that way.
He's just been so good for so long. Well, I think there are obviously some interesting points here. CJ Stroud obviously going to be with the Houston Texans. So you got a rookie quarterback situation. So obviously there are two rookie quarterbacks. Anthony Richardson also of the Colts. So a lot of teams that are most likely going to be, unless one of these rookie quarterbacks like steps out, is going to be just pounding the rock. Except for the only team in this division that is not going to be running the ball like crazy is the Jaguars.
Right.
And they have some talented running backs too. Like ETN is, I think, a very underrated running back.
Mm-hmm.
Dameon Pierce had a great year last year for the Texans. Yep. They brought in a couple other running backs to kind of help out that backfield too.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a lot of.
There was no one to throw to. There was no one able to throw the ball.
There's an AFC South game on Thursday Night Football this year, right? There's like a Jags Colts game or something. That's going to be a 9-6 shootout. I mean, there's going to be one. There's going to be a game in this division where both teams score under 10 points.
It says we're actually on the AFC South. One of the first preseason games was tonight. It was actually the Texans versus the Patriots. Texans won.
There you go.
Here's my hot take for this division. I think that the Titans finish third. I think one of the two rookie quarterbacks actually has a decent year, rookie season, and finishes second. I would actually, as much as I hate the rest of their team, I think CJ Stroud's going to be better than Anthony Richardson. Yeah, I think there is enough talent on that offense. I could see them passing the Titans for second division. I don't think anyone's beating the Jags, but I could actually see that happening.
There's also a few receivers that are. I mean, Nico Collins. I think a lot of people expect him to take a step up. I think who was he? There was another receiver too. I'm forgetting.
They drafted receiver Tank Dell.
Yeah,
Tank Dell apparently looked really, really good in camp.
He had a good game tonight too. 5 catches, 70 yards, and a tutty.
There you go. That's
CJ
Stroud, my third round pick in our dynasty draft. He's gonna be my third round pick, and now the word's out, fellas. Fuck.
CJ Stroud played a possession. He went 2 for 4 with a pick and a 15-yard sack. So good start.
Yeah, excellent.
Good prediction, Robbie.
Good for him.
Thanks. Anthony Richardson's not gonna do the exact same in his first preseason.
Yeah, no, 100%.
As Robbie said, though, I don't think it's any question that we think the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to win. I mean, their offense has so much talent between Lawrence and, as Ryan said, ETN, Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, Evan Ingram. Like, that talent is stacked. That offense is stacked with talent.
And then they have the other Josh Allen on defense. Just some really good defensive players as well. Yeah, I think this might be the biggest runaway division because I don't know if any other team gets over 500. Other than the Jags?
It might be close. That's actually That's a good question. So we are going to move on from that division, obviously one of the worst divisions in the NFL. We're going to move to the last division of the AFC, the division that everyone thought last year was going to be by far the best division in football. Did not end up that way. We have the Denver Broncos, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Las Vegas Raiders, and the Los Angeles Chargers. And I don't know if this division is a question of who will win. It's a question of will the Raiders have more than 2 wins this season?
Yeah. So we got the Chiefs at -165. They do have the best odds to win the division out of any division leader. We have the Chargers at +340, the Broncos at +550, and the Raiders at +1200.
Oh, God. Yikes.
The Raiders do not have the worst odds to win the division, though. That belongs to the NFC South, correct?
West,
excuse me.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, we will get there.
So the Chiefs win the division. Unless Mahomes and Kelsey both get out. Yeah, that's about it.
I think if they lost Mahomes, I think they'd probably not win the division.
Well, it depends on how early.
Is there backup?
I was just about to look. Is that still?
I saw it earlier.
Henny? Yeah, I think it's Henny.
It's someone. I thought it was someone like decent now. No, never mind. That was someone else.
They wouldn't be paying a decent.
For some reason, in my mind, like Chase Daniel is still there, which I don't think.
Blaine Gabbert.
Yo.
Hey, I
mean, he's kind of like a poor man's Mahomes. By poor man, I mean like someone who has $0 to their name, but like they kind of play similar. Yeah.
So yeah, obviously,
a gunslinger, if you will.
I don't see how this division finishes anything other than chalk. Like they're just at such different tiers.
Here's my take for the division.
For me, hold on. But for me, it's like, can the Chargers actually take that next step? Like, we've been waiting for them to actually challenge the Chiefs here, and it just hasn't happened.
And that was going to be my take. I actually think the Chargers push this division to be a fight till the end. I think they stay in it until week 17 or 18. I think they can keep it close. I think they do take that next step. I mean, Herbert has to. It's his time to do something. And I do think they take that next step.
I think a lot of the question is, as much as we joke about it, not necessarily is Russ going to cook. I think it's more so like what does a Broncos team with Sean Payton at the helm look like? Does that make a massive difference? I mean, does it make on the offensive side of the ball, on the defensive side of the ball? So I honestly do think that the Broncos will be better this year, but I'm also of the opinion that I think the Chargers will take a step up. So the Chargers and like they'll go up together, but like the Broncos, I don't think will overtake the Chargers.
I think the bigger difference for the Broncos isn't getting Sean Payton. It's no longer having Nathaniel Hackett as your head coach.
Yes, that is a fair point.
You saw how much better they got once they fired him mid-year last year. Like they instantly like started playing. I mean, they were playing awful, so it's not saying a lot. But like they instantly took a step up.
Yeah,
like okay, that's a big difference.
I'm interested to see how like Javonte Williams comes back. He's been kind of handcuffed by like sharing touches with Melvin Gordon. Then he obviously
now they have Samaje Perine.
Samaje Perine is not even as decent as what Melvin Gordon was.
No, he's better than washed up Melvin Gordon has been the last couple of years. He'll still be better about not fumbling.
Well, that's why I was so shocked. Is like, why is Javonte getting touches vultured by a dude who physically cannot hold on to the ball? It didn't make any sense. Then he tore his ACL. So,
I mean, Perine's going to play a very similar role to what he played to Mixon in Cincinnati. He's going to be like a third down back. He's going to come in when he needs someone to catch the ball out of the backfield and try to take some touches away from Javonte as he gets healthier and as he gets back up to full speed. That's going to be his role.
Absolutely. Great take there, Robbie. Great analysis. Great insight. We're going to move into the National Football Conference, the NFC. We're going to start out with the beloved NFC East. What was formerly by far the worst team in professional sports has taken quite a massive leap in the past 2 to 3 years. The NFC East consists of the Dallas Cowboys, the New York Giants, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Washington Commanders.
What are those odds, Rob?
Eagles at minus 135, which I'm shocked by. I would not have the Eagles in minus odds. Cowboys at plus 190, Giants at plus 850, and the Commanders at plus 1600.
So that right there is, I think, the best value bet in football.
The Giants?
The Giants at minus 850, I think, is insulting to put them that far below the Cowboys.
I've already said this. My hot take for this year is that the Giants win this division, and I really think they do. I think they have enough talent now on offense to get something done, assuming we get the same. I just completely lost a name. Saquon Barkley. There it is. I had Samaje Perine on the brain, and the S is really. I'm like, that's not it.
Samaje Perine living rent free in Robbie's head. Clickbait? Question mark? Exclamation mark?
Yeah, I mean, if Saquon plays like he did last year, if Daniel Jones keeps getting better, like I do think they can win this division. And like the Eagles played really well last year, but I do think teams will start to figure out that offense, and they lost both coordinators as well. I think there's a big opportunity there for a step back from the Eagles. And then the Cowboys are there. They're present in the division.
Dude, I don't have any reasoning for this, but I have a gut feeling that the Cowboys are going to have a losing record this year.
I don't think they'll have a losing record. There's too much talent on that defense, especially to keep them in games, even when Dak makes fucking bonehead mistakes.
At what point do you move on from Dak Prescott? Because
but the issue is he's good enough for you. It's like you're not going to take a gamble on somebody in the draft.
But I would put him in the Kirk Cousins tier of he's good, but he's not good enough to go win you a Super Bowl. That's where I would put Dak Prescott.
I think if Trent Dilfer can win a Super Bowl, Dak Prescott can.
We're talking about one guy.
Yeah.
Right.
I just don't think he can get it done. I don't. And Dilfer's a different argument because like we already talked about this in today's NFL, you got to be able to throw the ball. Like that's where you win games. I mean, you win it on defense. I think a good defense usually trumps a good offense, but you got to be able to throw the ball. And I don't know if Dak does enough now, especially now. I think he's gotten worse as a passer in my mind. Maybe that's just recency bias.
And we know Jerry is such a homer. He rides or dies his dudes. He hung on to Romo maybe a little too long than he should have. He's going to do the same with Dak. But the issue is Dak has flashes where he on certain weekends he's a top 5 quarterback for sure. And Kirk then Cousins. There's other Kirk Cousins is not playing at 7:20 p.m. on a Sunday night.
In my opinion, I think it'll end up. I don't agree with the Giants take. I think the Eagles will take this. I mean, I just don't see where they lost anything really. So I really, and that team had so much talent both on the offensive and the defensive side of the ball. And I think that
they lost a good amount off their defense.
And they drafted really well on their defense too. They plugged a lot of holes that they're worried about. But I do think you have to when you win a Super Bowl or you go to a Super Bowl, losing coordinators for the next year is a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
I don't think you can
a pretty good
understate
trend.
that.
Like when you lose the Super Bowl, you actually almost always get worse.
Well, I'm not saying that they're going to be at the same level of performance. I just do think that they will win the division again.
So out of 56 Super Bowl runner-ups, only 39 of them have made the playoffs next year. So obviously over 50%, but you'd still think, no, they're the second best team the year before. You'd expect a lot more of them to come back and make the playoffs the next year. So I think it is a real thing, especially like Brian said, losing two coordinators is a big deal.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, Ryan, who do you think is going to finish on top of this division?
It's going to be the Eagles. I think the Eagles probably take it by 2 games, and then you have the Cowboys and Giants fighting for NFC wildcard spots, probably around 10-7. And then I think you see the Commanders as like a
we haven't talked about 10. The Commanders at all.
The Commanders are like a deep and distant fourth. I think they'll probably finish like 7-10, maybe 6-11. They just are missing a lot of pieces. The defense is still pretty good. That defensive front is, especially with Chase Young coming back, is
maybe the best defensive line in the NFL. Like actually,
top 3 for sure. Like they're a very impressive defensive line. But that's kind of where the buck stops right there.
Yeah.
So
you can win a lot of games sacking the quarterback. If you can get pressure on the quarterback, you can cover up a lot of issues you have in the secondary.
100%.
They will concuss 1 or 2 quarterbacks this year.
Don't say that.
They will.
We're gonna move on.
They play Jimmy G. That's a lock. They're gonna knock Jimmy G out of the game if they play Jimmy G. I don't know if that's a game, but I would lock that in.
We're gonna move on to the next NFC division. We're going into the NFC North. To remind you of the teams that are in that division, it's the Chicago Bears, it's the Detroit Lions, it's the Green Bay Packers, and it's the Minnesota Vikings.
Skull.
For our odds, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. It doesn't actually look real. We have the Detroit Lions favored to win the division at plus 140. The Minnesota Vikings at plus 275. The Chicago Bears at plus 400, and the Packers at plus 400.
It's having the Lions favored to win the division is absolute bait, and it's not going to happen.
I was about to say the fact that they're favored makes me think they're not going to win the division because Detroit can't have nice things. That's not.
They are a long-suffering franchise, and I have nothing but respect for Detroit Lions fans. I think they're great people. Their team has sucked for years. They're not winning the division. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen.
It's going to be the Vikings.
I'm just interested to where that is coming from, why they're such, and I understand that people think Goff's going to be decent, and obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown took a big step up. They drafted Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't entirely know about their defensive front, but I haven't heard enough big signings free agency wise or coordinator wise of guys that they're bringing in to really shift the needle that much off of the Vikings.
So their running attack is definitely going to be one of the best in football. With David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm obviously not as high on Goff. I think he did enough to be a decent quarterback. He's not going to win you a Super Bowl.
But no, I agree completely. I don't think the needle has shifted nearly enough to take that much off the Vikings. I mean, I know they don't have Thielen, but they gained Hawkinson. Justin Jefferson, I think, is going to be easily the best receiver in all football. Like you said, Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. I mean, I think he's a good quarterback. I think you guys think he's serviceable.
Agreed.
But I mean, I don't see any reason that they should have moved off the Vikings that much, especially they have Daniel Hunter. I don't get it. I don't get those odds. I don't think the Lions are going to be bad by any means. This is probably the best Lions team that there's going to be, in the past decade or so along those lines. But I mean,
here's a question for you. So we don't think the Lions are going to win the division. Can they make the wild card, and can they get their first playoff win in how long?
I think they have a potential to fight for that bottom wild card spot. And I think one of the reasons why their line is so high is because they ended the year so well.
Yes. The last Lions playoff win, by the way, was in 1991. That's 32 years of suffering.
Yeah.
So the Lions finished the season on an 8-2 run. Beating teams like Green Bay, Chicago, New York. They lost to Buffalo on a nail biter, and they lost at Carolina, which is kind of a weird loss for them.
They got shit on that game because they decided to just not tackle any of the Panthers running backs. I remember that game. It was great. We got to see Deontay Foreman just go off, which
they hung 40 on Jacksonville. They hung 40 on Chicago. I mean, I think people are just going to think they're going to maintain that pace. They finished the season at 9-8. I have them pegged definitely for a number 2 spot. I think they're better than the Bears. I think anyone who tells you the Bears are taking that big of a step forward is smoking crack. So,
yeah. Everyone wants to talk about the Bears and like, they have DJ Moore now. Passing attack's gonna be better. It's like it doesn't really matter if Justin Fields still can't get them the ball. He's a great running quarterback. It's just can he keep working on his passing game? Because I think it got better last year. I think he took a step forward, but like, is he to the point now where he can demand enough attention downfield to keep it away from him when he's trying to run the ball? And I don't know if he's still not. I don't think he's quite there yet.
Nope.
Do you guys think that Detroit Lions fans and New York Knicks fans have a support group?
They need one.
Yeah, I know.
The Browns and Lions kind of have a support group going together. They're both both on Lake Erie there, so Lake Erie bros holding together.
So obviously we've talked a lot about Ryan specifically talked about how bad he thinks the Packers are going to be this year. That's not to discount some of the offensive talent that they do have between Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. But I mean, I don't think any of us have faith really in Jordan Love as a quarterback. We haven't really seen anything that would prove otherwise.
Packers will finish bottom 5 in the NFL this year.
Jordan
Love I don't think that's a hot take.
He's never played up this competition like he does. I think Utah State, right? Am I thinking about that right? Is that where he came from?
I do not know. I don't know.
I think so. And then, it's a similar thing. People said the same thing about Josh Allen, and he came from Miami. Like Josh Allen has some intangible physical attributes that not many other quarterbacks have, and I don't think Jordan Love has that. And I think that's the difference. Is you can kind of overcome that difference in talent, or overcome that difference in like people that you've played if you have that talent. But I just don't think he has it.
Mm-hmm. So I think that we're in agreement that the Minnesota Vikings are going to walk away with this division. Probably not by a landslide by any means. Like we said, I think we all believe that the Lions probably fit in a wild card spot. But I think the Vikings are walking away with it. We're going to move on to the next division, Robbie's beloved NFC South. We have
about a dumpster fire.
It's going to be a fun division.
It is going to be a fun division, but I don't think a team here wins more than 10 games.
Disagree. We have the Atlanta Falcons, the Carolina Panthers, the New Orleans Saints, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yep. So we got the Saints at plus 120, the Falcons at plus 215, the Carolina Panthers at plus 400, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at plus 800, which is way too fucking high. The Buccaneers are not winning this division.
Nope.
There's just no way.
It's going to be Baker and Kyle getting pulled for each other every other game.
There was a report yesterday that I can't remember who reported it, but it was talking about the Bucs published their official depth chart, and it said this guy has been in sports media for 40 plus years. It said it was the first time in history that he saw on a depth chart where the quarterback position was listed. It literally said Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask. There was not a starter designated. That's how crappy they're
just not going to be good. And like the defense really took a step back last year already. I think they're getting a little bit older on the defensive side of the ball. They're not going to be a good team this year.
Another bottom 5 team in the NFL.
Yeah. That one I'm more comfortable in agreeing.
I don't get. I mean, I get why the Saints are at the top, but I just don't think the Saints are head and shoulders better than either the Falcons or the Panthers. I think they're all going to be really close together and all around 500.
I think that's reflected in the odds, right? It was like 150 for the Saints and like 220 or whatever.
215, 400. So.
That's definitely not head and shoulders, right? That's for favored, sure. but like not by a ton. I think it really comes down to like, does Bryce like really show out? Right? Yes. Does he start enabling that Panthers offense? Because he's a big step up from what the Panthers had at the helm last year.
The Panthers defense is good. Like the Panthers defense is good enough to win some games. So can the offense finally keep up a little bit? Will be the big question. They obviously added some other talent around him. Miles Sanders, Adam Thielen, DJ Chark has apparently looked really good in camp, which I never thought I would say, but he's apparently had some really good time in camp. I think that's the biggest question in this division. Well, actually, I think there's two. How does Bryce Young play? And is Desmond Ridder serviceable enough to get the Falcons where they need to be?
Yes.
I don't think so.
I think he is.
Based on what?
Well, I don't think we saw enough last year. I don't think. I mean, he was a rookie last year. Like these guys need to be developed, and I don't know if Mariota is really the proper guy to develop him under. Granted, but I think that these coaches will definitely have. He's been working. I would assume he would work with more guys in the offseason, probably expanded like who he was working with. I think that I don't think Ridder was bad last year. I just don't think he was good.
I don't have a lot of faith in the Falcons defense outside of AJ Terrell.
Calais Campbell. He's kind of old, but.
I think they're okay around the board, but I don't think their defense has any really other, great players on it.
Right. I just think their offense is going to be crazy. And like, I will completely come forward and say it. I think Bijan Robinson is going to be the best running back prospect in 20 years.
I think Bijan is going to disappoint so many people.
I know.
Because the bar is so high.
Agreed. Everyone expects him to come in and be like a top 5 running back this year, which I just don't see happening.
We had him on our graphic, so that's incorrect.
In fantasy.
Yeah, because he's going to be a bell cow.
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
They are going to have to use him to open up Ritter. And to Ritter's credit, from what I remember, he takes care of the ball. I don't think he's going to make a lot of mistakes that's going to potentially cost Atlanta games. I just don't know if he's got the explosiveness or like just the top end ability at this point in his career to like go out and win games, like take games over.
This means absolutely nothing, but I did see that Bijan is behind Tyler Algier in the depth chart right now.
Hell yeah.
It means absolutely nothing because Breece Hall is the exact same way going into camp last year. But yeah,
does Ritter or Atlanta get Kyle Pitts involved again?
Yes, I think
that would require Arthur Smith to have half of a brain, which he doesn't have. So
and the thing is, Pitts is not a really good blocking tight end, and I think that's probably one of the number one things that Atlanta's going to try to do to develop him to get him in more play calling packages. But he was only on the field for like 39 or 40% of snaps last year.
The crazy thing is how many of those snaps is he just wide open and like waving his hands up and down, like, look at how fucking open I am. Like, I'm just here by myself and you're not throwing me the ball.
Let me read out to you real quick. I'm going to read out to you some of the Desmond Ritter stats from last year, just to kind of put it in perspective. So Desmond Ritter, he played 4 games. He only played 4 games. So he, through those 4 games, only threw 115 times. His completion percentage was 64%, which is relatively high for a rookie quarterback, and especially with what the Falcons were last year. He threw 708 yards, 6.2 average, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. So as Ryan said, takes care of the ball, but it's I think
tutties over 4 games.
No, that's what I'm saying. His
game manager dink and dunk type shit.
Yeah, that's it. You can say his completion percentage is 64%, but how many times he throw the ball more than 5 yards down the field?
Yeah, no, I agree.
I bet you he had like 3 attempts down.
I bet that his depth of attempt is probably like last in the league.
But also keep in mind, like, where the Falcons were last year, they put him in those last 4 games because they knew that they weren't going to do anything. So they were just trying to get him reps on the field. It's not like they wanted to go to win games.
That's when you start going out and you just like open up the playbook a little bit. Like, all right, let's see what this guy can do. Like, it doesn't matter if he's throwing picks or whatever. Let's see what he can figure out. And they didn't even feel comfortable enough to do that in a time where the games literally don't matter.
Correct.
Cordell Patterson was pretty good last year.
I love C-Pat. C-Pat's the man, but like he's getting a little old.
No, 100%. I don't know. I really do think that this Falcons team, I said it before, this is one of my hot takes for the season. I think that they win 10 games. I think that they win this division. I do. Clip it back whenever Robbie brings it up again. But
I think 9 games will win you this division. I think that's pretty.
I don't think you're wrong. Yeah.
Desmond Ritter's average completion distance was 6 yards.
I'm shocked it was that far.
Like 6.5, so but Ryan, so do you, obviously it looks like Robbie thinks the Panthers are going to win. I think the Falcons. Ryan, where do you think?
Only because of the opium, but yes.
I don't know, man. It's a crapshoot of a division besides the Bucs.
Yeah, the Bucs.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we haven't touched much on the Saints. Obviously, if they added good Lord, Kareem Hunt, that running back combination is crazy between him and Kamara and the rookie. But I mean, again, with the whole, the quarterback situation, it's like Derek Carr is fine, but it's like, I don't know if he gets you, 9-10 wins. I don't know. It kind of depends. Michael Thomas. What do you think of Michael Thomas? Is he going to do anything this year?
He's going to get hurt. The man apparently has the pain tolerance of like a 2-year-old, baby. I don't get it. Like it's insane.
He's a little bitch. So when does Derek Carr get hurt and Jabu comes back in to save the Saints season?
Dude, we were smoking the copium for Jameis Winston last year. It was crazy.
Because Michael Thomas once again fooled us. I thought he was coming back and actually going to play well.
Also, Jameson should have been put back in after he got hurt. Like, they kept him out after he got hurt, which was dumb because he was way better than fucking Andy Dalton.
Yeah,
Dude,
that is
one of my favorite images of last year is that image of like Andy Dalton throws a pick 6 to the Cardinals, and you can see the guy like diving into the end zone. You just see like Andy Dalton's sad face walk into the shot as this guy's like doing like a front flip into the end zone off the second straight pick 6 they threw in back-to-back passes.
I remember that. That was against the Cardinals, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the Cardinals.
Yeah,
it's tough.
Jimmy Graham back on the Saints. They run it back.
He is.
It goes kind of hard.
Yeah.
They signed a 1-year contract. Tight end.
I don't.
We have another guy. He's really bad though.
So on this, I'm looking at the Saints roster right now. They have 7 tight ends.
Holy God!
7.
Oh, who is the dude that is like the Swiss Army knife dude? He played quarterback and running. Yes, Taysom Hill.
He's always on there.
Yeah, forgot about him.
They have 3 centers and 7 tight ends.
Heavens.
Respect.
We are going to move.
Jawan Johnson. That's what I was thinking of.
Just make it different. I'm going to pick the Saints, so all 3 of us have different predictions for this.
It's going to be the fucking Bucks now.
Exactly. So yeah, if you're making, remember, please gamble responsibly and don't listen to us. We're going to move into the last division of the NFL with the NFC West. The Arizona Cardinals, the
0-17.
Los Angeles Rams, the San Francisco 49ers, and the Seattle Seahawks. I other than obviously the 49ers, I don't feel great about this division either.
Yeah, so we got the Niners at -160, the Seahawks at +195, and then a just absolute cavern down to the Rams at +1,000, and the Cardinals at +2,500. Worst odds to win the division of any team in the NFL.
The Rams are a little low, but I don't see anybody except for the Niners winning this division.
And that's what the Niners not knowing who the fuck they're going to put at quarterback. I guess it doesn't matter. Christian McCaffrey will just like go back there and run it. So will Debo. So it's like
I don't think it matters.
Elijah Mitchell's still there, isn't he?
He is. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, you got 3 super
Brandon
solid
Ayuk.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't matter. The
offense is nuts. Defense is serviceable with Bosa. Like that, the team will be fine.
Is Warner still there? I know he's a little older, but Fred Warner?
Yes.
I think he is.
I mean, people sleep on him. How good and integral to that team he was last year. Because remember that Niners defense was ranked 2nd in the league last year.
Yeah.
So I completely agree. I think the Niners will, in my opinion, I think this might be the most like runaway division, which is crazy because the Rams were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Which is like absolutely nuts.
I mean, the Rams went all in to win that Super Bowl, and they knew that, and they got it, and that's what mattered. It's like they traded away so much to get the players they need to win that Super Bowl, and they won it. But now they're paying the piper for that one.
Yeah. So
I don't think the odds are high enough on the Niners. I think Niners are probably the best odds to like guarantee or potentially guarantee your money out of anybody to win the division.
Agreed.
Yeah, they're only behind the Chiefs in terms of odds.
I think I take the Niners like as more of a sure thing, which is crazy. But I mean, one of the biggest talking points I think from this is people are really interested to see how Geno Smith responds because obviously he had an amazing career year last year. People want to see if he can follow that up this year. I mean, what do you guys think?
They added more talent on offense too. They added Jackson Smith and Jigba. They added running back to Charbonnet from UCLA to go with Kenneth Walker. Like they got some dudes.
Kenneth Walker's a stud. I think Kenneth Walker is super good.
Still have Metcalf and Lockett,
Yep.
I think Geno takes a step back.
I do too.
Personally. Just because we have a much larger sample size of what he had been able to do before that last year.
In his defense, he was on the Jets.
Right. in the defense, right? I don't know. I just think he does take a step back. I don't have a whole lot to like base my thoughts off of.
He took a little bit of a step back in the second half of the year too, because he came out hot and he was playing really well, and then he kind of took a step back in the second half of the year. And I think that's what a lot of people are going to look at as like, okay, maybe he just had a good run, and now we're kind of back to average Geno Smith. And I agree with you, Ryan. I think he's going to take a step back.
Yep. I don't think it'll be huge. No. I think he will be a middle of the road quarterback. I still think he'll be a ton of games.
Top 15 quarterback in the NFL. Like I think he'll be an above average quarterback.
I think he's got too many weapons to not be. Yeah. Really.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So obviously Ryan thinks that the Cardinals are going to be awful, and the sports books do reflect this. The Cardinals have the worst over under in the entire NFL. But I'm not sure. It's like in my head, it's a question of do the Rams get back on track at all? So I feel like they're going to be down. I feel like they also might be down there.
that plus 1,000 is crazy to see the Rams that low.
Yeah, 100%.
I think the expectation too is Stafford is still just getting older. I mean, he's not going to really take a step forward. But I guess we'll see.
I'm going to. I think obviously we're all in agreement in the Niners. But I have to agree with Ryan. I think the Cardinals are also going to end up being in last place in this division.
Yep. Yes.
So
sir.
that is it in terms of all the divisions, gentlemen. We have to make our Super Bowl predictions, and we have to do it right now.
Okay.
So who is going to the Super Bowl? Let's go through the AFC. Robbie, I'm going to come to you first for the AFC team that you think is going to make the Super Bowl this year.
It's a hot take.
Oh,
the Kansas City Chiefs.
Nah.
I just
physically lukewarm.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I guess I don't think that Josh Allen can beat Mahomes in a playoff until I see him do it. He hasn't proven he can do it yet. Joe Burrow's done it once, but it's a really close game. Patrick Mahomes is just that dude. I really think he's just that guy, and I don't see anyone getting the best of him.
Ryan, coming to you.
This is tough. This is really difficult. There are 3 teams that you're allowed to pick without it being kind of stupid to pick.
I mean, if you wanted to get crazy, I think you could take the Chargers. If you wanted to get real weird, but yeah, I would agree with you.
It's either the Bengals, the Bills, or the Chiefs, or who you're picking.
Mm-hmm.
Chiefs just make the most sense, but that's not who I'm going with today.
Go with your heart?
I'm going with the Bills.
He's going with the Buffalo
Josh Allen figures it out.
It is time for the Bills to get back to the Super Bowl and lose. It's been too long.
Yeah.
They got to go back and lose. They got to give some hope to their fans that watch them lose 4 straight. We got to get back to they got to get back to form.
Yep. Unfortunately, I will not be completing the trio of the teams that are quote unquote acceptable in the AFC Chiefs. I'm going to go with Robbie here. I think the Kansas City Chiefs. Not to say that I don't think there won't be some incredible AFC playoff battles between teams like the Bengals and the Bills. But as Robbie said, Patrick Mahomes is that guy, that dude. He's had so much experience in terms of the playoffs and Super Bowls and all that. And in terms of their talent and stuff, I don't think they've lost enough to really make up that delta between the Bills and the Chiefs. And yeah, Josh Allen doesn't typically perform as well as Mahomes does in the playoffs. And I don't think, even though I have a lot of faith in the Chargers, I don't think that they take enough of a step up. And I also think the Bengals will be good, but again, I don't think that delta is enough to make up for it. So yeah, I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs. We're going into our NFC predictions for the Super Bowl team. Robbie, who you got?
Picking an NFC team is just sucks because I don't like any of them.
I
just don't like any of the NFC teams.
Uh-huh. You got to pick one though, Rob. Unfortunately,
I do.
Go with the Giants. That'd be crazy.
I'm gonna contradict an earlier statement I said.
He's
not going to win the Super Bowl.
He's picking the Eagles.
No, he's not good enough to win you a Super Bowl.
No way, the Vikings. No shot.
There's got to be someone different.
Kirk.
And I think the Minnesota Vikings find a way to sledge their way through the NFC. I think it's going to be an ugly playoffs, and I just
it's going to be so bad.
Someone that you don't expect to be there is going to end up there to be a sacrifice to whatever AFC team makes it through that gauntlet. I think it's going to be the Minnesota Vikings.
I applaud you for your courage, and I appreciate you.
I think if I'm thinking super logically, it's probably the Niners, but I want to go with the Vikings. I want to go with the Vikings.
Ryan, coming to you for the NFC pick.
I will be thinking logically, and I will be going with the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
I just think they are potentially the second most complete team. They got to stay healthy. They hit that. That's a really big if for them. But I think they will have the ability to beat up on 2 teams in their own little pod and hold off the Seahawks. Honestly, I think the Seahawks will surprise a lot of people. I think they might steal a game in the wild card. I envision the Seahawks making the playoffs in this division.
So
we'll see. But Niners, Bills.
Unfortunately, I will not have a new take for you either on this round. I am also going to go with the 49ers. I think that defense, I think a lot of people are sleeping on that defense still, even after them being ranked second last year. Probably, other than the quarterback position, the most talent offensively in the NFL. I think Kyle Shanahan's good enough to get you there. And I think this is the year that the Niners stop playing spoiler and just go all the way, as opposed to dashing the hopes of another NFC team. I think they go all the way.
I just had something come back to me. I want to throw this out here because Ryan is very down on the Cardinals right now. But if I'm not mistaken, Ryan picked the Cardinals to go to the Super Bowl last year.
Sounds about right.
I'm like, if I'm remembering correctly, I'll go back and check it out. But I am actually pretty positive that Ryan chose the Arizona Cardinals to go to the Super Bowl last year, which I love. It's going to be me this year when the fucking Vikings don't win the division. So.
You never know. The Detroit Lions are right there.
I almost thought about picking the Lions. That would have been crazy.
So in terms of the NFL outlook, that is it from us. But
I assume we're all picking whatever AFC team we pick to go to the Super Bowl.
Correct.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Who do you have
winning the Super Bowl? Actually, no. Niners are going to beat the Bills.
Oh, so we got Niners. I got the Chiefs.
Yeah, I have to take the Chiefs. They just have so much experience. And like for me, it's always like if I think the talent delta between the two teams is not very big, I always go with the team that has the most experience. And the Chiefs have been there time and time again.
And like there's just so many times you've seen like Patrick Mahomes just goes and wins a game. Like he just goes out and does it. It doesn't really matter what's going on or who's on the field. It doesn't. Like he's just going to go win the game. And it's very Tom Brady-esque because there were times where Tom Brady did that too. It was like, oh yeah, like Brady's just going to go win it. Like it doesn't really matter what you do. He's just going to go win the game.
I know we're talking about like the NFL playoffs and all that kind of stuff, but just as a hypothetical, like you obviously just compared Mahomes to Brady. If Mahomes stays on this trajectory and plays for 20 years,
yes, the answer is yes.
GOAT?
Yes.
Does he have to play for 20 years if he keeps winning Super Bowls at the rate that he is?
Yeah, I know.
He's already winning them quickly,
right,
and making them very quickly too.
But I think if this trajectory continues, I don't think it's a question, to be completely honest,
because he's infinitely more like physically talented than Brady is.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Brady was a great quarterback. When you watch Mahomes play, it's just a completely different style.
It is.
I mean, I would also argue that the success of the Patriots could be attributed to Tom Brady as much to Bill Belichick. Whereas, I think Andy Dalton's a very good coach. I don't think
Reid.
All right, good Lord. Well, Andy Reid is a very good coach. He's not Bill Belichick.
I think that's a hot take. I think Andy Reid is like probably the best offensive mind in football. You can throw in Shanahan, you can throw in Sean Payton, but like continued success, Andy Reid has really been that dude.
But Andy Reid
is a little bit disingenuous.
Yeah. I mean, similar to Belichick, Andy Reid never won a Super Bowl until he had Patrick Mahomes. He made one with Donovan McNabb,
right?
But he didn't win one.
Lost to Brady, right?
He did.
Yeah.
They also it was the NFC Championship game.
I don't necessarily
pain from my childhood. Anyways.
Yeah, and I didn't mean that necessarily to be disingenuous, but it's more so like Bill Belichick is arguably the greatest coach of all time. So I put Andy Reid in that discussion.
But I think Andy Reid is moving his way up to be the second greatest coach of like this time period in the NFL.
Yeah.
It's the whole thing. It's like Brady's obviously a Hall of Famer without Belichick, but is he the GOAT without Belichick? No. Belichick, is he the GOAT coach of all time without Brady? No.
But I think Patrick Mahomes could do this with a lot of coaches.
I
think Andy Reid's a great coach, but I just think Mahomes is that good.
It's just pure talent. And Brady, like as much talent as Brady had, he was a great game manager, and obviously he was a great quarterback. But like Patrick Mahomes is arguably the most talented quarterback of all time.
He's what Aaron Rodgers wants to be. Aaron Rodgers goes to sleep at night and dreams about the way Patrick Mahomes plays.
Do you guys think that Patrick Mahomes wasn't taken high in the NFL draft because he played in the Big 12 at Texas Tech?
Because he played at Texas Tech. Because they ran the air raid and he had all these great stats, but it's the system, right? He's just running this air raid offense where he can just sling the ball 40 times a game.
It was Big 12 defense, right? They just didn't give a fuck. So they're when he plays a real defense, he's fucked. It's like, no, he's actually just like that good.
It's my favorite thing now for like GMs to get fired to do is to come back now and say, if I had my way in that draft, I would have picked Mahomes. And then some team sees that and like, we need to hire this guy. This guy's a fucking genius. Like, you never thought about drafting Patrick Mahomes. You can just say that now, but it doesn't really matter. But it's just you'll see him do it all the time. It's hysterical.
Patrick Mahomes did this interview. It was one of those barbershop interviews. I know LeBron's done one, and I can't remember, but I remember Mahomes doing one, and he talked about how, and I say he's the most talented quarterback of all time purely from this statement, as well as obviously what he's shown. Mahomes did not know how to read defenses until I think he said his third year in the league. He was out there playing backyard pickup football. Because he said he
still plays backyard pickup football, but now he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
That sidearm throw, like they're getting, just destroyed in that Super Bowl, and he somehow gets that throw off as he's literally parallel to the turf. Yeah. It doesn't get caught up. So it was just like, who else can do that? All right, have we had enough Mahomes meat riding for the night? Are we good?
Real quick, you know who the one quarterback that was picked over him?
Mr. Trubisky.
That is correct. In that legendary Bears-Niners trade where the Niners robbed them fucking blind. And everyone knew it. Every single person on planet Earth knew it besides the Bears organization.
It's funny.
I mean, if you got touchdowns for love and titties, Mitch Trubisky would be the best quarterback of all time. But
yeah.
Heavens.
Just to remind our listeners, for the Mitch Trubisky trade, the Niners and Bears swapped spots. Niners went to 3, Bears went to 2. The Niners also got the 67th pick, the 111th pick, as well as a third-round selection the next year, just to take I Love Titties Trubisky.
It's crazy.
Very well. You can carry on.
All right, we are going to move on from the NFL. Well, I mean, we're staying within football, but we're going to talk a little bit about fantasy football because we all have a draft this Saturday, gentlemen. For fantasy
drafts. Two drafts.
Yeah, you're very, very true. And obviously, that's just a very fun aspect of all this. It's something that we really enjoy doing, and we like talking about it too. So we are going to bring you kind of some of our thoughts on that. So yeah, how do we want to do this? Ryan sent us a text earlier in terms of 4 things that he wanted to hear from us in terms of who we thought the best player was going to be, the best value. Ryan, do you want to start off with your list of that?
Do you want me just to go all through who I like, or just like go one at a time?
We'll go one at a time. And do we want to do this where they each have to pick someone different?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're going to start with the overall best performer. Now, you can pick that at any position you want. If you could be QB, receiver, running back, right? It's like, okay, I think this is going to be the best quarterback in fantasy. Standard rules, PPR, all the normal.
We're just picking one or for every position?
Up to you. I was just going to say one.
Yeah, let's just do
one guy that like stands out.
Sure.
So for me, and this guy is like not, you're not really digging deep into the bucket on this one. There's a guy who's going like number 1 overall in a lot of drafts, but I think
that's why I asked if we all can't take the same person, because I think if we all had our choice, I think Justin Jefferson is the no-brainer best performer in fantasy.
Right.
But Connor and I will take different people, and since you came up with the idea, you get the first selection there. So I think it's a good call. He's going to be playing in the Super Bowl this year too, which is crazy. So that's going to be first. But Connor, you go ahead and go next.
I get to go next. There are obviously a few selections I can make here in terms of like what the ADP is right now, and I think that I am going to lean. So you said, does it have to be a different position, or can it be?
It can be the same position.
It's going to be the same position. I am between a few right now. I think that a lot of people would also lean towards CMC. Obviously, CMC is going on the 2nd pick right now. I think there's so much talent on the Niners offense that it's going to be kind of hard to share the ball. I mean, in my mind, the safest other best performer to go with is Travis Kelce. I mean, I don't think there's any really doubt there that Travis Kelce is going to end up being the number 1 tight end at the end of the year, especially with Patrick Mahomes. And I think there's a lot of question marks with receivers, other than maybe a few other guys, other than Jefferson. And I think there's a lot of questions around a lot of different running backs right now. So I'm going to go with the safe bet there, and I'm going to say Travis Kelce is absolutely going to be the number 1 tight end at the end of this year.
So I'll keep it going with doing different positions, and I'm going to talk about the best running back. And obviously, the running back market is interesting now. They're not as valued by their teams. You're not going to see the days of Adrian Peterson getting all the carries in the world and putting up insane fantasy stats. It's just not what's going to happen anymore. I agree that I think CMC is going to have a few too many touches taken away. And I'm going to go probably a little bit further down the draft board than these guys did. But I've talked about this team a lot already, really high on his team. I think he's going to have a great year. I think Saquon Barkley is going to end up being your best running back this year in fantasy.
Number one overall?
As a running back, yes.
Wow. Very
and you can get him late in your first round, so keep that in mind.
This is very true.
Great value.
Mm-hmm.
Great value to be had. So for the next segment, we picked our number one overall. Let's go with who we think is going to be the biggest bust, because I think that one's always the most exciting and one of the biggest things talked about going into like the next year when you're picking guys. I'm actually going to start with the quarterback position for myself. This guy is in PPR is being projected as a top 5 quarterback, and I just don't see it. Personally, I know he gets running stats, and that's probably going to be the only thing that keeps him in the top 10. I think Justin Fields is being picked way too high, and I see him finishing like on fringe top 10 territory.
Yeah, I wonder. I think it's the case a lot of times, and I'm not saying that this is really comparable, but obviously Lamar's MVP season had a lot to do with his running ability. And I think, but the problem is that Lamar's only ever really had that one season in terms of like being the absolute best, absolute elite. And so I feel like there are certain seasons, and Justin Fields, like statistically, had one of the best rushing quarterback seasons ever.
Right.
But like those are pretty few and far and few in between. So it's like, I agree. I don't think he's going to repeat that. And so where is he going? Do you know ADP wise?
So he's going 5th as a quarterback.
Yeah,
right.
That's too high.
Right, and you were talking about some of the stats. I had a great rushing. Right, he was averaging 7 yards a carry, which is great. Had a ton of touchdowns. He had 8 touchdowns, but he was sacked 55 times and fumbled the ball 16 times.
And in terms
throwing
of
11 picks, like he's not good with the ball. He's not good for the Bears will lose games because of his inability to hold on to the ball, and that's not to mention he ran for 1,200 yards last year. That's just asking to get hurt.
And also, I think running quarterbacks in the NFL are the easiest thing to start scheming against. Once you see them do it for you and you have some time to go through film, like you see that drop. Like we talked about Lamar Jackson. Cam Newton had similar things where once they kind of figure out how they wanted to run Cam Newton's kind of impossible to stop on the goal line just he's so fucking big. But in terms of like getting out in the open and like having those big runs, like those did get schemed away from him pretty quickly. But yeah, I think that's a good take, and I agree. I think he's just been taken way too high.
Yeah.
Also, the number one running back in Chicago right now is either Deontay Foreman or Khalil Herbert. So he does not have like...
Put some respect on Deontay Foreman.
No, I don't think I will.
Fair enough.
I don't think I will.
All right, Connor. Who do you have, Connor?
He is somebody that I previously said in the past was going to be a bust. And I wasn't necessarily wrong, but I also wasn't necessarily right in this season. It wasn't last season. I said it was the season before. And I was right partially because he was injured. I just don't see him being as good this year. And I've never really seen it in him. I think A.J. Brown is going to be the biggest bust of this year. And I agree. I think that the Eagles will take a little bit of a step back. And I'm not necessarily saying that Jalen will, but I think that Devonta Smith takes a step up. And so I think that he will be targeted a lot more. That they have like 3 running backs that are going to be and a running back by committee. And I'll just hold my hands up and say the Philadelphia Eagles statistically have the best offensive line in the entire league. Yeah. So obviously that gives Jalen Hurts plenty of time to throw the ball, which he doesn't even need because he's so good with his legs. But I don't know what it is. It's kind of a gut feeling more than anything. I've never really seen it with A.J. Brown, and I just don't think that he'll perform as well this year.
So I'll keep on our same kind of trajectory here where we're each going like a different position. Mm-hmm. I'm a good guy. I've actually talked about him in the past in terms of having a regression. He's starting to get older, the running back position. He's being taken pretty high in draft still. I think his team's going to be really good this year, but we've talked about his quarterback's going to take a step up. I think they're going to throw the ball a lot. I don't think he's going to see the touches. That's Austin Eckler. I just think he's really due for a decent touchdown regression, especially if we think that Justin Herbert's going to take a step up. And I think that this is going to be the year where you see him maybe not end up in that top 5 running back range where he has been.
I will say that the one thing Justin Herbert does is he feeds Eckler like receptions, which is kind of crazy.
And they'll scheme things for him, but
yeah, of course. But yeah, he's getting older, and I guess a lot of those Chargers receivers are, or excuse me, Chargers players are. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad pick. I don't think there were any bad busts.
I can't believe that he was undrafted.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's go into our best value pick.
Oh, I'm ready for this. I got a whole write up for this one. I got a write up for this one.
So I mean, I'm more than happy to get it started. I think this is actually going to be a hot take between the two here. I think he's on a young team. He's young himself. I'm going with a running back. I think the offensive line he had last year really struggled. I think the team did a good job drafting, and I think the offensive line will be much better this year. Played 17 games. Both seasons he's been in the league. He's coming into his third year after a little bit of a sophomore slump. If he gets his yards per carry up and is a little bit more efficient, I think he'll be really good. Currently, he's being taken as the 12th running back in the draft, and that's Najee Harris. I think he had a really good first year. I think people drafted him really high, like top 3 ADP for running back. That man.
Robbie.
Steelers were beat up. Young quarterback, young receivers. You know, they hadn't really found their identity yet. I think the entire offense takes a big step forward this year, and I think Najee has the potential to finish as a top 5 running back.
All the advanced analytics people are going to be so mad at you because it's fine. Like if you look at all those stupid stats, it's like breakaways or whatever stat that someone made up to like justify their decision on doing whatever in fantasy. Like his stats aren't great, but I agree with you. I mean, we know that Najee Harris is a good running back. You can see it when he plays. You saw it at Alabama. You saw it as rookie year in the NFL. Like he can ball. He can play ball. So I like that pick.
He played every single game. He had 300 attempts in each of his first 2 seasons. The Steelers are going to utilize the man. Can the offensive line help? Can the Pickett huck the ball to actually get the front 7 open up a little bit?
Yeah. Robbie, can I go before you so you don't steal my players since I did a write-up for them? Unfortunately, it is the same position, and it's not someone that's going as low, but I think it is absolutely heinous that Nick Chubb is going in the 2nd round.
Yeah.
I think that is heinous, and here's some of my reasonings why. Apart from the 2019 season, Nick Chubb has been on the field around 55% of the snaps. Despite that figure, he ran the ball more than 300 times last year, only being on the field around 55% of the snaps. He's currently the only running back that is listed on the Browns' depth chart. That doesn't mean he's going to take 100% of snaps, but I think he'll probably be around 70%, which is not a figure that he has averaged his entire career. He'll be getting fed the rock. The Browns don't have that great of a receiving core, and I think that Deshaun Watson will have a better grip on the offense, which means feed the ball to Nick Chubb. The only concern that I have with him, especially because we're doing PPR leagues, obviously is kind of his patch catching ability. But let me read you the list of quarterbacks that Nick Chubb has had to endure in his time in Cleveland. Tyrod Taylor,
Beast.
Baker Mayfield, and Jacoby Brissett are the 3 quarterbacks
Dogs.
that Nick Chubb has endured. So I think Deshaun is miles ahead of these guys, even with knocking the rust off. So I don't even know if you can say that Nick Chubb has a lack of a pass catching ability because he's never had the opportunity to showcase that he has any pass catching ability with those quarterbacks that he has. And furthermore, statistically, the Cleveland Browns have the 2nd best offensive line in the league, only behind the Eagles. Nick Chubb will be the steal of your fantasy draft. He should not be going in the 2nd round. It just should not be happening.
So I think that's a great take. And I think the PPR thing is what gets him. And I think that's why you're seeing, I think in standard, I think he probably is going in the 1st round, but we do generally do PPR because standard's fucking boring.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think Nick Chubb has all of the talent in the world, and I think that offense does put it together this year.
If Chubb has had 4 receiving touchdowns, count him 4 his entire career. If he somehow gets involved in the passing game, 100%. I think that's a great take. I mean, a little bit of this, but
let me.
I love the write-up though. The write-up is great.
Man, imagine if I had picked Chubb.
I would have been so
good. He would have been like, "No, try again."
You said running back, and Connor said, "Huh."
Let me remind you of the quarterbacks that Nick Chubb has played with: Tyrod Taylor, Baker Mayfield, and Jacoby Brissett.
One more time for me. I forgot.
Deshaun Watson played.
Okay,
last
year.
Absolute Mount Rushmore of dudes that can huck the rock.
See, y'all went 2nd round steals.
He's going 16.
Get deep in the bag, King.
We're going 9th round, fellas.
Oh,
and this is a little bit of a homer pick. However, we're talking about value here, And rookie quarterbacks tend to find one guy that they like to throw the ball to. And Bryce Young happens to be pretty good at throwing the football. He's also being drafted below his other teammate that was brought in this year for the Carolina Panthers, who has always served as a number 2 receiver for his entire career and has only gotten older. That player is DJ Chark. And DJ Chark has shown flashes of being a solid wide receiver. I think he's had some injuries, and I think he's had some poor quarterback play in the past.
And poor coaching.
Poor coaching. The Jags and the Lions is not exactly great coaching, right?
Yeah.
I think Frank Reich is going to get a lot out of Bryce Young, and I think that DJ Chark is going to be the unquestioned number 1 wide receiver in Carolina, and I think they're going to throw the ball a bit. I think Bryce Young is going to get to sling it, and I think his guy that he's looking for is going to be DJ Chark.
I'm bricked up.
I also expect Bryce Young to be very good this year. I think he showcased that in college. Obviously, people were worried about like his size being at 5'10". He didn't have some obviously the measurements and stuff, but I think that his film tape proved more than enough of him being capable to be an NFL quarterback. And if you think that's going to be one of his guys, and I have faith in you, Robbie. I have faith in your take.
The weird thing to me is that Adam Thielen is being picked above DJ Chark in most fantasy drafts right now. In most rankings, you actually see Thielen above him, which to me just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Thielen is great in the red zone, but like, he's not going to go out and catch all 6 or 7 balls a game. That's just not what he does.
I think where you have a lot of the Thielen's way more of a safe pick. Thielen,
higher floor. Floor.
Yes.
Thielen will play games. Like if you look at Thielen's 10-year career or whatever, he's played at a minimum 15 games. Like the dude's always on the field. Chark has had a lot of injuries.
Yes.
Right. If Chark can somehow play 16, 17 games, I'm all aboard that train. 100%.
Yeah, I just love the value where he's being picked. It is low.
Yeah.
And the Panthers don't have a horribly hard schedule this year either, seeing as they didn't finish I guess they finished second in the division.
Because they are in the NFC South.
Correct, but I don't think it's going to be horribly hard for them to do that. So
yeah,
that's my value, and I think there's some good value to be had where they're picking DJ Chark.
What good takes by all of us. God, we're just so smart. We're just so good at this.
And they're all going to be wrong.
Ryan, I think you have one more that you want to go through.
I said that I wanted to do. Who do you think is going to be the best player on a new team?
Mm-hmm.
And this one I was really struggling with.
It's hard. If you go down fantasy rankings, all of the guys in the top 50 are all on the same team, which is really, really funny.
Right.
I have one ready if you want to go a little bit longer. Right?
Yeah, you can take yours. Let's go.
I'll go second.
He's a running back who I think a lot of people were really high on last year. He came off a really good year the year before. He's great out of the backfield, catching the ball. He can do a lot of different things on the offense. Connor mentioned before he's going to be in a little bit of a running back by committee, but I think he's far and away the most talented running back in this committee. He's on the defending NFC champions as well, a really good offense. I think DeAndre Swift is in for a very good year on a new team. And I think there's so much talent there. I think him and Jalen Hurts together is a nasty duo.
Yeah. I don't have any disagreements with that. Like, as you said, obviously I mentioned that running back by committee, but I completely agree that I think Swift is easily the most talented guy among those 3 guys that are listed. Obviously the injuries were a little bit of a concern, but he performed really well in his initial season with the Lions.
And even before he got hurt last year, he looked great. Until the injury came up, he was playing really good football.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very good take, especially if we think that the Eagles are due for a little bit of a regression. Maybe that means they'll pound the rock a little bit more. So that could be interesting. I guess I will take second here. There's one guy that I think Ryan may pick, so I'm gonna leave that one, and I'm gonna go to a guy that I have said forever that I've never liked taking this guy in fantasy. This is the first year in my entire fantasy football career that I would be okay with taking this man.
Oh,
tight end position. We're going to go to the NFC East, and we're going to go to Darren Waller.
He was another one I had too. Yeah.
We all think that Daniel Jones is going to be better this year. And obviously they're going to run the ball with Saquon. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I just think that similar to last year, the Giants are severely lacking in pass catchers, and I think Darren Waller will provide Daniel Jones a very strong, big, athletic target to go get the ball in the end zone. And I think Darren Waller has a really good year this year, and I think Daniel Jones, I think he's his number one target, which I think it becomes not as good, but I think it becomes similar to a Kelsey Mahomes relationship. I think he feeds him that much.
It's another injury concern for sure because he's been beat up for the last couple of years. But when he was held with the Raiders, he was that guy. Like he was getting targets on targets on targets. Mm-hmm. I agree with that take. Like I said, he was another guy I kind of had on my list in terms of on a new team. So I like that take.
There's one that I was thinking of that Ryan might take, but I don't know if you can technically qualify it as new, if that gives any hints. But I'm interested to see who Ryan takes here.
I am actually going to take a member of one of our favorite teams.
Oh, I know.
I think the Carolina Panthers got him at great value, even in the current running back market. I think he's going to be he's obviously the unquestioned dude in that backfield. Yep. I think he's going to take a lot of pressure off of Bryce Young, and I think he's going to be really what that offense goes through until Bryce gets comfortable back there, and I think that's Miles Sanders. I think he played on a very talented Eagles team where there was a lot of mouths to feed, and there was some actually decent running backs with Byron Scott, and I always forget the
Kenneth Gainwell.
Last guy. Kenneth Gainwell, yes.
Boston Scott, too.
Boston Scott, excuse me. Miles Sanders is hitting his running back prime. They locked him up for 4 years. He's got that check. I think he's going to do really, really well in his first year down in Carolina.
I'm very curious who the Panthers bring in a running back for like protection packages because like Miles Sanders ain't getting it done. Chuba Hubbard sure as hell ain't getting it done.
Come on, bro. Come on.
Like Chuba's returning kicks is what's happening.
Who the fuck is protecting Bryce Young in a protection package? Like that's definitely a concern. But I agree. I think he's gonna have a really good year. Man, I like that we're high on the Panthers, guys. Makes me feel good to talk about my team.
The one that I was referencing earlier, kind of an honorable mention, but I had his name / Waller. Calvin Ridley. I think
I did think about him too. It's a new team because he didn't suit up for them last year, so I think that's considered a new team.
But I think that probably we all have reservations just in the sense of like Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram are also both there, and they're going to take targets too. Whereas like I think Ridley will be great, but I mean there's just a lot of talent on that team.
Yep, I agree.
I don't think I disagree with any of our takes there, gentlemen. I think that was a pretty smooth.
Again, that means that they're all going to be fucking wrong.
Oh yeah, 100%. You have to go back, Robbie, at a certain point and resurface all these takes whenever they're wrong.
I'm going to go find the podcast where Ryan says the Cardinals were in the Super Bowl last year, and I'll send it to you, and you can stitch that together with him now saying less than a year later they're going 0-17.
Please don't.
Whenever the Falcons end up with 2 wins, you got to find that clip and
for sure.
Yeah. So who wants to sign us out, gentlemen? I believe that's it for us.
I can do us. Thank you very much for listening to our special episode here. We will be back on the news cycle here in about 2 weeks. I'll be back to our normal podcast format. We hope you guys enjoy this new format. If there's something you'd like to see us do more often, a little bit deeper dive into things like this, please let us know. We may be able to do like a college football one at some point before the season starts up. We got options. Obviously, football is our sport, so don't ask us to do an NHL deep dive because that's just going to end badly for everyone. But for myself and Ryan and Connor, thank you for listening, and please gamble responsibly.
Bye.